Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Allison, and today I am going over some of the books that I have read in the past week. So if you didn't notice, last week I once again missed my reading update video, and that is because of unforeseen circumstances. My mom and my stepdad got really sick last week, so they could not take my kiddos on Friday, which is when I normally film. So I did miss last week, but that's okay because there really wasn't anything that happened that was super exciting. So I'm just gonna talk about last week's books on this week's video. So we're just gonna go ahead and get started because I do have quite a few books to talk about. The first book on the list is A Time of Blood by John Gwynne. This is the second book in his Of Blood and Bone trilogy, and this book was insane. I am going to do a review of this book because I did a review of the first book, and I just need practice doing book reviews, so I'm going to do a book review for this one. But this book was an action-packed, fast-paced, what the heck is going to happen next kind of a thing. There were a couple of differences between the first book and this book that I kind of had an issue with, and I will talk about that stuff in the review, which will be coming out in the next couple of weeks, I believe. So if you are wanting to see my full thoughts on this book, please keep an eye out for the review I'm going to do. Just as a warning, that review will probably be just a little bit spoilery. Not spoilery for this book, but spoilery for the first book because it is the second book in the series, and I will probably have to talk about some things that occur in the first book. So if you want to avoid spoilers for the first book, don't watch the review, but if you've already read the first book or you don't care about spoilers, then you can watch the review. Either way, that's fine. I think this one got 4 out of 5 stars from me. It was really good. I really enjoyed it, even though it did frustrate me a little bit, and there was some parts of it that were a little bit irritating, but other than that, I really enjoyed this one. So far, I have really enjoyed John Gwynne's his writing, and I am very excited, kind of also scared to read the final book in that series, or this series, just because like all of the crap that happened in the second book, I was like, what? Why is this happening? And then, and that was even from like the first book, which was intense all around. So I'm really kind of scared for the third book because I'm not really like, what else can he do? What else can he do to my poor babies in this book? I'm not really sure. I feel like everything bad that could have happened did happen in this one, so I'm kind of nervous for the final book, but we shall see what happens in that one in August. The next book I have to talk about is The Mime Order by Samantha Shannon. This is the second novel in her the Bone Season series, and I reread this one. This was a reread for me. It was my first time rereading it, and I absolutely freaking loved it. Samantha Shannon is like a really good writer. So these books, I did not do a book review for The Bone Season, which is the first book in this series, and I don't even know if I even did a video on my channel where I talked about it at all whatsoever, but since I didn't do a review for that one, I'm probably not going to do a review for this one, and I honestly think it's not fair of me to do book reviews for books that I am rereading, because I don't feel like it's kind of a you know, I got my rose-colored lenses on when I am doing, when I'm rereading books, because I'm rereading them only because I love them so much. So I am going to not do an official like book review for this book, so I'm just going to talk about it here. I did give this one 5 out of 5 stars because I really liked it. So the whole like kind of like gist of the series and stuff is that it's set in a dystopian London in like 2050 something or 2070 something, I think. And the main thing about this book is that a lot of the people that live in this world are clairvoyant, which means that they can communicate with spirits and stuff, and there's like all sorts of different kinds of clairvoyance in this book. So you have characters that can possess people, you have characters that can control spirits, you have people that, you know, use like the normal like tarot cards or astrology or whatever. And there's just so many different kinds of clairvoyance in this book, and I think that's really cool. Like, you have people that can get visions and stuff, so I think that kind of stuff is really fascinating. I don't really believe in that kind of stuff, but I think it makes for great reading material. So and I don't know, just I love this story so much. I'm so excited to continue with my reread. What else was I gonna say about this? Oh, okay, so there's all these people that have clairvoyance, and in this world, they are technically illegal. So, like, there's this big war going on, like a war, like a propaganda war type thing going on between natural people and unnatural people. So the natural people are people that don't have clairvoyance. Most of them don't even know that it exists. It's treated like people that have clairvoyance are treated like the plague, and they're, you know, downtrodden by society, and they live in this like underworld type thing, and it's very interesting. I love the world building in these books. I also absolutely adore the main character. The first time I read these books, I was like really a little bit irritated with her, but her character development throughout the second and third book are so good. I really enjoy reading her perspective now. So there was one other thing I was going to say. I don't remember. Oh, a little bit about what draws me to this series so much is the like kind of like setting. So it's very like 1920s gangster style for me. You have all these people, you know, dressed like they would in the 1920s, and they like talk like they have gangster slang, and they just, I don't know. Just like the atmosphere of the whole story gives off like huge 1920s gangster themes, and I absolutely love that aspect of this book. I feel like if it had any other kind of atmosphere, it would just kind of fall flat, but that is really what like brings it to life for me. I love the way they talk. Like, there's a character in here that's always calling people "oh my lovely," and it's so funny. I just love reading it, and I just imagine hearing all of these voices with British accents. Well, except for the main character, she's Irish, so she actually has a Celtic accent, which I think is great, and I do imagine them all in my head when I'm reading. So I really enjoy that. I really enjoy this story. Some things about it: there is forbidden love trope, found family tropes. There's all sorts of different kinds of things in here that are really good. I just really enjoy it. So if you have a thing for like clairvoyance or spirits, and you like gangster style things, and you like dystopian settings, then I would definitely check this book out, or this series out. The Bone Season is the first one, and these are, I would consider these adult science fiction. I think if you were on like the higher end of YA, you would be okay with this, but I also believe that adults can enjoy these just as much as young adults. So that is kind of my spiel on this series and how much I love it. So I'm gonna move on. And the third book I have today is Bone Crier's Dawn by Catherine Purdy. This is the second novel in the Bone Crier's Moon duology, and it is YA fantasy. So this book was a bit of a wild ride. I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5 stars, and I have actually a lot of thoughts about this book. I'm not going to do an official review for it because I'm just not going to, and because I figured everything I needed to say I could say in this video. So it's very fast-paced, it's action-packed, like there's not a lot of like dull moments or like moments where the characters are just kind of doing things but nothing really is progressing plot-wise. My main issue with it was that there was a ton of like world building, I guess, that was just kind of getting thrown at me while I was reading it, and it just didn't feel like it had any grounding in the story. And I don't really know how to explain this without sounding like I have no idea what the heck I'm talking about, but while I was reading this book, just every like other chapter was like, oh, and then this thing is a, you know, whatever kind of world building was going on, and I was like, but how do you get from this to this? And it just wasn't explained. It was just like you kind of just had to just assume that, you know, there was some kind of background for why this thing was the way it was. So that was kind of like the only thing that really irritated me about this book. I was just like, the author is just throwing all of this information at me, and I'm just like, but it doesn't make any sense. Like, how can you say this is, you know, truth in this world if there's nothing there's nothing to back it up. It's just like the characters are like, oh, okay, they just accept it and move on, and I'm sitting here like, but how? How do you get to this point? Like, how do you get to this discovery or this revelation or whatever that was going on? So, is that like info dumping? I don't know. Usually info dumping is boring and whatnot, but this book was really, like, I really enjoyed reading this book. It was entertaining and fast-paced, and that was great. But then there was all these moments where the author is just like, oh, let's sprinkle some more of this in here just for funsies. And I'm like, but I need to know how, and I need to know why, and you need to tell me. So that's like my only complaint with this book. If you love fast-paced, action-packed books, then I definitely recommend this book. It was not awful. The writing is not awful. The story is not awful. There was just things that were happening or that had happened, and there was like no explanation for it, and I'm just like, I got really confused for a minute, and I was like, this plot line needs to be like streamlined a little bit more so that I could follow it, because there was no like cause and effect. It would just be like, and then this, and then this, and then this, and I was just like, but why? That was my main thing with this book. Just me sitting here going, but why? But why? The whole time. But I was still enjoying it. This book was so hard for me to like enjoy and read, because one moment I'd be like, yes, things are happening, and then the next moment there would be that something would get thrown into the plot, and I'm like, why though? I just needed a little bit more background on some of the things that happened in this book, and maybe it happened in the first book, but I don't really remember there being a lot of like deep like world building going on in the first book either. So if you're interested in reading Bone Crier's Moon or Bone Crier's Dawn, I recommend both of them because they're both fast-paced and fun reads. But if you're looking for something that has really in-depth world building, you're not gonna find it in these books, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing if you're willing to just overlook, you know, the lack of you know, world building or whatever. I mean, it's not that there isn't world building. So I guess I should have prefaced all of this by saying that this book is about bone criers or witches, and there just was a lot in like the witch lore that was like just kind of thrown at me but not really explained, if that makes any sense. Hopefully that makes some sense. But that was my main issue with this book. I still enjoyed it. I read it fairly quickly once I finally made myself sit down and read it. I did read through it pretty quickly, and it was a lot of fun. The ending was okay. I felt like it was a little bit lackluster, and I was like, really, that's what they're gonna do? That's really lame. So, I don't know. The ending was a little bit boring, but that's all right. It had a good ending, I guess. I don't really know. But if you have a young reader, or if you're even remotely interested in like YA witchy type books, this would probably be something that you might enjoy, especially if you like fast-paced action that doesn't have a lot of like in-depth world building. I definitely recommend it for people who don't like to sit and read page upon page of like characters, you know, discovering like why things are the way they are. Personally, I like that kind of stuff, but other people might not. So if you like fun, fast-paced reads, I definitely recommend Bone Crier's Moon and Bone Crier's Dawn to you. So those were the 3 books that I got to over the past couple of weeks. Like I said, it's been a while since I have done a reading update. So I have 2 books that I'm currently reading, and I'm just going to go ahead and start talking about them. So the first one is Golden Sun by Pierce Brown. This is the second book in the Red Rising trilogy, or Red Rising saga, I guess, now that there's like 2 separate trilogies. This is a reread for me, and I have been having such a hard time like sitting down and reading lately because I am working on getting school stuff around for our school year that's going to be starting here pretty quickly. And so my mind has been kind of all over the place, and then there's been some other like life stuff that's been going on that's super fun. Love being an adult. So I really have had such a hard time sitting down and reading. I'm actually impressed that I read 3 books over 2 weeks. Like, that's pretty intense for me. So I am only on page 58 of this book. I am definitely intending to continue it on into August, since right now it is July 30th. So I am really, you know, that's just gonna have to wait a little bit. I'm not gonna be able to finish it before the month is over. Like there's no way I'm going to get through it. If you read Red Rising, then you understand why, because the stuff is dense and it's so good, and I have to sit and literally read every single word because I freaking love it, and Pierce Brown is a genius and he writes magical books. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. The other book I'm reading is The Maiden Ship by Michelin Rickman. I feel like I'm saying her name wrong, but that's what it looks like to me. So this is The Maiden Ship, and I just started it yesterday, I believe, and I'm on page 103. It's a very little book. I think it's got like 260 something pages in it. So I'm not anticipating that it's going to take me very long, and you know, it's just another book for me to get through for the end of July, and I'm actually enjoying it so far. There's a few things that I'm like not really bothered by, but just some things that I've noticed. But so far it's good. It is YA fantasy, I'm pretty sure, and it is the first book in a trilogy. The second book is already out, but the third book I don't think is getting released until next year. There really is not a lot for me to say about this, other than basically in this world there used to be magic, and magic is disappearing / getting stolen, and our main character has to figure out how and why and stop it. So that's the main premise of the story. This guy right here is the main character. So far there's only been one point of view, and it's been him. So it's refreshing to read a book that has a male main character. I feel like the female main character thing is so overdone and so just why all the time. Like, why does every book have to have a female main character? Usually if there is a male main character, it's not the only point of view, but so far for this book, the main character and the only point of view has been this boy. I guess he's almost an adult. He's like 17 or something in the book, and his name is Dane. And he's pretty fun. He's a little bit awkward and a little bit silly, but I think he's a pretty adorable, lovable character. So I am definitely excited to continue reading this book, and yeah, that's pretty much it. As far as reading plans for the next week goes, I'm going to be finishing that in probably today or tomorrow, depending on what I need to get done. And then I will be continuing Golden Sun into August, because August is like a day away. On Sunday, I'm pretty sure, is the first day of August. Pretty much that's it as far as reading plans goes. I have rambled enough today. I'm going to let you guys go. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in another video. Bye!